One of the most essential tools in interpreting the Bible is the practice of typology. The word typology comes from the Greek word tupos, meaning pattern or imprint, and it refers to the fact that each individual story in the Bible is an imprint of the grand story of the whole Bible. Most people thus think of typology as something which links together the Old and the New Testaments, and it does, but typology does much more than that. Typology links together every story in the Bible with every other story. To see this, look at the pattern of the Exodus throughout the Bible. The Exodus of Israel from Egypt and their journey to Canaan has been prefigured several times before. Today, let's just look at two examples from early in the biblical story. First, when Abraham's family was called out of Ur of the Chaldeans, he began the journey with his father Terah and his family. While they were journeying towards Canaan, they stopped in Haran, between Ur and Canaan, and they stayed there for many years. While they stayed in Haran, we are told that Terah died in Haran, and Abraham went on to Canaan, where he built an altar and was told that the land would be given to his seed. This pre-plays the story of the Exodus. Israel leaves Egypt to go to Canaan, but on their way to Canaan, they spend 40 years in the wilderness. While they are in the wilderness, the older generation dies off, just as Terah died in Haran between Ur and Canaan. And then when Israel finally reaches Canaan, God fulfills the promise he made to Abraham in Genesis 12:7. This correspondence is attested by the language God uses in the covenant with Abraham in Genesis 15:7. I am the Lord, who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans. Compare that with the language God uses in Exodus 22. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Second, the Exodus is prefigured again immediately after this story. In Genesis 12:10, a famine strikes Canaan, so Abram takes his clan to Egypt. While in Egypt, Pharaoh attempts to lay hands on his bride, giving Abram gifts and riches on her account. Pharaoh's house is stricken with plagues, so that Abram departs Egypt. But when he departs, he carries with him all the wealth that Pharaoh had given him, and he goes on to the land of Canaan. Again, this is the story of the Exodus in miniature. The sons of Jacob will later go down to Egypt because of a great famine at the end of Genesis. While in Egypt, a king arises who persecutes Abraham's seed, the bride of God. But God protects the Israelites and smashes Egypt with plagues, so that in Exodus 11:3, Israel is given the wealth of Egypt and begins their journey up to Canaan. Typology isn't just window dressing on the biblical story. Every biblical story is linked to every other biblical story through typology. It unveils the key to all history, governed by the God who is the same yesterday, today, and forever. By observing the ways in which God consistently works throughout Old and New Testaments, we learn about the God who is working, both in history and in our lives today, through Jesus Christ, who delivered us from bondage to this world, to the freedom of the glory of the children of God.